Hello everyone, welcome to another video. This video we are going to do a deeper dive on our last video that covered emerging technologies. So basically we're going to start doing a deep dive into artificial intelligence because that is one of the emerging technologies that are starting to pretty much take over everything that we do. So let's go ahead and get into that. So, what is artificial intelligence? It's a computer system that allows you to perform tasks that typically a human would do. So, when I'm referring to tasks, I'm referring to your common human tasks. So, that would be learning, that would be reasoning, so understanding what you should do, when you should do it, how to do it, problem solving, and even understanding languages. So, all of those tasks we do every day of our lives. And basically, what happens in AI is the computer is basically conducting all of these tasks, which is basically mimicking human intelligence. So, how does it work? So, there are these primary steps that occur. So, you have data collection, and then you have the training of models, then you have testing and evaluating, and you also have deployment and feedback. So, we'll take a look at each. So, data collection. For the AI system to know what to do, it has to have some sort of data that it can use to train itself. So, what happens is AI systems have and gather large amounts of data. Now, there are engineers in the world who pretty much train AI. So, what they do is they collect a bunch of data and they feed it into this AI system, and the AI system then uses that data to pretty much begin its learning process. So, what type of data do AI systems have? Pretty much they have text, images, numbers, and even sensor readings. So, when I'm referring to sensor readings, I'm referring to the readings from other technology devices, for example, phones, watches, things of that nature. So, once it has the data, that data is used to train a model. So, each AI system has a model that it uses to pretty much hold, store, manipulate, and train the data. And there are algorithms, which are, step by step processes that allow you to analyze the data how you need it to be analyzed to pretty much um, come up with patterns and relationships within the data. So it's basically allowing the connection from various data points that are in the data set and connecting them to show how they are related and how they go hand in hand, what they can do. So basically, this is the stage where your AI system is learning and it basically has the ability to adjust based on how it was set up or what rules were set in place for this system. So, step three would be testing and evaluating. So, when we're testing the system, we're just pretty much seeing if it's working how we needed it to work or how it was planned to work. And basically, it's using another set of data to see if it's working well. So, this would allow for checking for accuracy, fairness, and reliability because all three of those are important. Imagine using an AI system that was not correct, or imagine using an AI system that did not consider all use cases, or a system that only worked half of the time. You pretty much wouldn't use the AI system if that was the case. So, this is why testing and evaluating is very important. Finally, you have step four, which is deployment and getting feedback. So, this is pretty much allowing the world to use it and pretty much getting feedback on if it's working how it's intended to, if there needs to be changes based on users. And overall, and over time, the AI system will continue to learn because as a user uses the AI system, it's feeding new information into the system, which it then can use to train the system further, which improves its accuracy and improves the abilities of that system. So, what types of AI are there? There's machine learning, there's natural language processing or NLP, computer vision, and robotics. And these are some common forms that it can take. So we'll look at those. So, machine learning or ML is basically when you allow the computer to learn from data and improve over time. So, machine learning basically happens in the AI systems. So, again, what happens is the data is analyzed into patterns, and then the model makes predictions or decisions based off of that data. So, as it continues to make predictions or decisions, it's basically learning how to improve itself from that data. So, that is how the term machine learning came about. The machine is learning, and when the machine is learning, it is learning based on the data and the user interactions and inputs that it receives. So there are some different forms of machine learning. So there's supervised learning, there's unsupervised learning, and there's reinforcement learning. For your supervised learning, it's basically learning from structured or labeled data that typically that engineer or that technology professional labeled. Or it has unsupervised learning, which basically is just finding patterns the hard way in a bunch of random data. And then there's reinforced learning. So that's just learning by the trials and errors of the original training of the data set. Another form of AI is natural language processing, and this is the one that most of you all work with every day, NLP. So this is what allows your computer to understand what you're saying to it, so allowing it to understand the human language. So what happens is when you input information or say information into a AI chatbot or even Siri, for example, what happens is it takes that information and breaks it down. So it's trying to understand the overall grammar you use, the different meanings of the different words, and the context that you're using it. And by doing this, it's just learning what you're saying. So using large text database, your computer has the ability to understand what you're saying based on its training. So, natural language processing is typically used in all of the AI that you are used to, which would be your chatbots, any translation tools, and even writing assistants. So, what are the steps of natural language processing? First, you have text pre-processing, and that's pretty much prepping the text for the training. Then you have tokenization, and tokenization is when you're breaking the text into smaller units, so like words or phrases. So, for example, let's say you say, "Hey Siri, I want to know what the weather is." So, if you have that case, then basically Siri will split up the words that you just said. So, let's say, "I want to know the weather." So, what she would know is you're the person requesting, and then she would know that you're asking for the weather. So then she would determine where you are at that moment, find the weather, and return it to you. So anything you're telling your chatbot or your Siri or your other AI assistants, it just takes your sentence, breaks it up into pieces, finds the important words within it, and then conducts the task that way. So again, step 3 uses part of speech tagging. So it's identifying the different grammar rules. So the noun in our example would be I. I am looking for the weather. The adjective would be looking. So looking can be another word for I am interested. And then the verb or the adjective, I should say, well, the verb would be looking, or interested, and your adjective would be the description of the weather. So these would all be different roles or grammar roles that your system will be breaking into pieces to identify what you're asking it to do. And once that's done, it does a sentiment analysis. So it's trying to see what type of tone you're using it in. So, for example, the weather has been so bad. What is the weather going to be today? So it would register that you're probably in a bad mood. So it might provide you some reassuring words like, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but here's the weather for today, and hopefully it will be better. Or if you say, oh, I've been loving the weather today, it's sunny outside, then, the chatbot might agree. Oh, yes, it has been nice outside. Today's going to be even better. So it just pretty much adds that emotion to the language. And once it does all of those steps, that's when it can create a response for you. So it creates that response based on all of the steps above it. What type of data it had in the system, breaking down what you said, figuring out the actions or who is involved or what is involved, how it's involved, and then determining how to respond to you emotionally to pretty much replicate being a human. So another form is computer vision, and this pretty much just allows your machine to interpret and understand, visual information from the world. So it's kind of like image recognition, and it pretty much uses the image to figure out, okay, what is this, and then identifies it. So it typically will identify objects, faces, and actions. So for you all, if you have an iPhone, this will be the case of a Face ID. When you first set up your Face ID, you take a scan of your face from different directions in different places. So for example, when you lift your head up, you lift your head down, you lift your head to the left, you lift your head to the right, and your phone can then track every angle of your face. And what it does is it pinpoints every little curve and inch of your face. And so that next time you come and put your face into it, it pretty much takes that first scan to make sure that it pretty much almost exactly matches what it's seeing. So, in the case that, for example, you experience some sort of accident that may damage your face, you could potentially have an issue getting back into the device, which is why the enablement of passcodes are required even though you use Face ID. Just in case there's some emergency where for some reason, your facial structure changes or is impacted in some way. And then we have robotics. So this is pretty much combining AI with the physical machines. And most of you know what robots are. So how it works is basically the AI will make decisions based again on the training data, and it will figure out what it needs to do within the robot. So for example, warehouse robots. So if you have, for example, like a BJ's membership, then you may have been to BJ's and saw one of those robots that's driving around the aisles. So those are inventory robots, and they're scanning the aisles of BJ's, and they're pretty much saying, all right, let's see what we have left on the shelves. Okay, there's not this many of this item. This item has a lot left. And basically what it's doing is it's taking that data, compiling it, and sending it to a computer at that store saying, okay, here's your current inventory levels. And that is allowing the store to know what they need to order next. So, for example, if they're running low on plates, then they will know, hey, you only have one bin of plates left. You might want to place an order so your customers aren't disrupted. So those machines are programmed using AI. So they have sensors inside of the robot that pretty much tell it where it is, and those sensors help the robot move around as well as scan for the inventory. So that would be an example of AI within a robot. So now that we covered your common AI sources, let's talk about what you actually use. So most of these you all use every day. For example, voice assistant. Your voice assistants are using natural language processing and machine learning at the same time to provide you with the experience you want. If you have streaming recommendations, so when you go to Apple Music or Spotify or Netflix and it say, hey, this is for you, it's basically collecting your data of what you watched in the past or what you listened to in the past and making a recommendation, hence machine learning. So your machine is learning about you and giving you things that you would love. Another example will be Grammarly or Google Translate, which also use NLP. Your social media feed uses machine learning. So again, for example, if you guys, if you search for something and then you scroll and then all of a sudden that same thing you search for is on your social media feed, that is because your system is learning you. It's learning what you enter. It's learning things you like, things you don't like, so it can provide a better experience to you. And lastly, your navigation systems. These actually use AI to create predictive algorithms. So when you're using a GPS, your GPS does not always know if there's traffic at the location that you are. So in this case, it provides you, the distance to point A to point B without traffic. However, to collect the traffic data that you see on your GPS, the GPS collects real-time data and sees if there are a lot of endpoints or devices that are in one area. So, for example, if there's over 100 devices in one area for more than a minute, then your GPS will pick up on that and it will pretty much register that, okay, machine learning, this area has a lot of devices, something must be going on, this must indicate traffic. So it would automatically create an orb or indicate on your map that there's traffic in that location due to the number of devices at that one time in that area. Now, if there's not a big number of devices in that area at one time, then you wouldn't see the traffic showing up. So that's just an example of predictive algorithms and natural language processing, as well as machine learning that you all use every day. So, although AI is helpful, there are some ethical challenges that are in play. So, first, there is bias in some algorithms. So, again, these algorithms are created by an individual, and we all do not think the same. So, of course, whoever created the AI system is going to put their thoughts and what they believe is best into the algorithm, and that's not always the case. There's also the issue of privacy and surveillance. So, again, as you all know, your device collects a lot of data about you. Now, is this device shared with anyone? No, but it is internal to your device, so you can pretty much say your device is spying on you. However, as long as you hold or keep access to your device, then pretty much all of your information is safe. It also is a challenge to be transparent and accountable. So again, if someone creates an AI system that isn't fair or has bias, it's hard to control accountability in that case because we don't necessarily know how the bias got there, who did that, and why it is a case. And lastly, you have job displacement. So AI is starting to take over careers because it's pretty much has the ability to do everyday tasks now, which in some areas and companies, they believe that's a plus because they no longer have to pay for the labor and they feel like they're saving costs. So therefore, it is impacting careers as well. So, to be ethical or have ethical AI, we need to follow these principles. We always want to ensure that the AI system is fair, it's transparent, it has privacy in place, it takes accountability for its actions, and has inclusivity, meaning that it considers everyone in all cases that are using it. By having these 5 principles, you can ensure that the AI system is useful for everyone and everyone can get the best experience out of it. So, what did we cover today? Today we covered what AI is, the types of AI, which are machine learning, natural language processing, computer vision, and robotics. We even talked about AI tools, the ethical challenges of AI, and the principles of ethical AI that we need to consider when using and or creating AI systems. So overall, this video provided you with everything you need to know about how AI is occurring. Again, this is a brief intro into AI, so this is not a deep dive. Many of these areas that we talked about, you can spend weeks and days on. But this is just a brief introduction to give you a background into how AI works, how it is helpful to you, and how it is changing the world. So I hope you found something interesting in this video. And in the next video, we are going to continue talking about AI, but in a different way. So I will see you all in the next video.